Well, in a moment, Tim Nichols, our shadow attorney, and I will talk about a really important issue for Queensland and the need to get a forensic lab service that works and works properly. I've asked Shadow Treasurer David Janetsky to come along also, though, because in the last few days we've seen the government attempt to rewrite a bit of history when it comes to the budget, and I think it's important that David sets the record clear. But let me begin on what is a fundamentally important issue. Queenslanders deserve a forensic services unit that provides justice for everyone. And right now, on the evidence that's before us, they're not getting that. Now, it's been nearly 6 weeks since the Health Minister stood up in this building and, under pressure, said that she'd be launching a review into its performance. You know what we've heard since then? Zero. Zilch. Not a word. We don't know who's doing the review, when it is, we don't know the terms of reference, and I think it's pretty serious. This isn't a political issue for the Health Minister to kick the can down the road. This is an issue about Queenslanders getting justice. And we're giving the Minister fair warning that we want that review announced and underway by the time Parliament resumes on Tuesday. We're not looking for a gotcha. We're not going in there trying to catch her out. We're giving a notice. The review has to get underway, because every day that we wait is one day that somebody is not going to get the justice they deserve, is one day that someone's family is put at risk because somebody who might deserve to be behind jail is out on the streets. So, Minister, over to you. It's been nearly 6 weeks. We haven't heard a peep. So we want to know, before Parliament resumes, what your intention is to fix the way that forensic services run in Queensland. Over to you, Tim.
Well, thanks, David. It's vitally important that the Forensic Services Laboratory is running well and that Queenslanders can have confidence in it. And why is it really important? It's because it goes to the fundamental administration of justice. Crooks will get off if the Forensic Services Laboratory isn't doing the job properly. DNA testing, fingerprint testing, illicit drug testing. These are all basic tenets of the Forensic Services Laboratory, and there are real question marks over whether they're being done right or wrong. Now, Queenslanders deserve to know whether the laboratory is being run well, whether it is providing the evidence that our prosecutors need to ensure that crooks are appropriately prosecuted and those that are guilty are convicted. And there are increasing cases and evidence that this is not occurring. We're seeing respected scientists who are raising concerns and referring matters to the Crime and Corruption Commission. We're seeing the victims, the loved ones of victims, who are very concerned about what's going on. It's important to Queenslanders, it's important to the administration of justice, it's important to fair play, and a cover-up and delays and obfuscation are no substitute for an open inquiry, clear terms of reference, with the reviewer publicly announced and a reporting date given back.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, David, for the invitation to be here today to address some issues around the Queensland Government's economic performance. And let's face it, it's appropriate that right now the focus of the economic narrative is at a federal level, and we're seeing that play out. But very shortly, in June, we will see the spotlight move from the federal environment to the state environment. The state budget is due in late June, and it's worth setting out a few markers of the Labor government's economic performance and management style. So their management, their economic management, is characterised by new taxes, wasteful spending and the wrong priorities. Since the Palaszczuk government's been elected, we've had more than 10 new taxes, most recently in December, when the Treasurer broke an election promise and introduced a new tax in MyFur, and we'll see that flow through this year's budget when it is released. We've also seen a plethora of examples of wasteful spending. We've got $200 million that has been spent on 1,000 beds at the Wellcamp quarantine facility, but not one of those beds will go towards homelessness or the social housing wait list. We've got over 50,000 households now in Queensland on that social housing wait list. We have seen major and key projects plagued by cost overruns. Cross River Rail, Gold Coast Light Rail Stage 3, Coomera Connector. By our count, those cost overruns are beyond $3 billion now. And the wrong priorities, well, they're on display every single day with this government. We've now seen a series of Auditor General reports calling out the government's lack of transparency and timeliness. We have seen time and again the state government's trickery when it comes to their presentation of the books. Going back across the term of this government, we've seen raids on public servant superannuation, a dodgy titles registry valuation last year, and most recently, $1 billion of renters' bond money that sits with the RTA going into the back pocket of Cameron Dick. But most egregiously, right now, we are seeing the state government chasing photo ops, red carpets and ribbon cuttings rather than addressing the cost of living crisis that is besetting Queensland. We know inflation across the nation is a little over 5%. In Queensland, that inflation figure is 6%. So the question for the government, what is their vision, what is their plan leading up to the Queensland budget in June to address those cost of living pressures? Because as of now, we have not heard a word or a whisper from the state government as to how to address those pressures. And over the coming weeks, we'll continue to talk about this because the government must have a position and must have a vision for our future. David.
Thanks, David. Over to you.
We think in terms of these failures in the lab, could it potentially mean that other cases like the Blackburn case would come to light as well, or what are we talking about?
Categorically, the answer is yes. There will be people who should have been found guilty who weren't, and there will be people who shouldn't have been out of jail who have committed offences. It's that serious. And I'm not sure the government understands the magnitude, and if they do, perhaps they see this as an issue that they can ride out. But it's an issue of justice, and Tim's articulated how much that permeates throughout good law and order. But if the government's serious, this will be a proper inquiry, and it will be done now. When the Minister announced the inquiry, it wasn't something the government had prepared. It was done on the floor of Parliament after the Minister had been peppered with questions from the opposition. Now, I'm not sure whether or not that means that she wasn't over the brief or whether or not they haven't grasped the magnitude of it, but this is serious. This is serious, and by any metric, the performance of the lab in Queensland doesn't cut it. And that means that justice is denied, and we're not okay with that, and neither are Queenslanders.
When you say it hasn't, by any measure, you can understand the specifics.
Sure.
It is a complicated business, forensic investigation. Tell us how did they fail?
It's a good question, Tim. It is complicated, but when you look at the levels, for example, the threshold, ours is double that of New South Wales before proceeding. When you look at time and time again where evidence, where DNA can't be found not just of a victim, but DNA can't even be found from the alleged offender. There are countless examples where it defies logic that a proper assessment wouldn't have found more. Now, I understand it's a complex business, but when you listen to the experts and when you review what is on the table, it's not working in Queensland. And that means that justice is being denied for people. And it also means that innocent people are being put at risk by someone who should be behind bars.
Do you think it's a case of not enough funding or leadership, better training is needed? What do you think is actually the solutions?
I think funding is part of it, and if you look at the Audit Office report, it showed that on coming to office the government did reduce funding and therefore staff, so that's part of it. But there are also cultural issues. There are cultural issues clearly in the thresholds that are set, the quality of testing, the environment. It has to be improved, and that's the purpose of a review. But it's now been nearly 6 weeks since the Minister said we were going to have a review, and she hasn't said a word about it. That's a long time. If it's something that the Minister thought was fair income and was as serious as what we think it is, I would argue that that review would be underway. Now, we asked those questions on behalf of victims, we asked those questions on behalf of everyday Queenslanders, and all we got was an announcement of a review with absolutely no detail, and nothing's followed since. Not good enough. So, to the Minister, we think it's fair and reasonable that you're ready to go. Tuesday Parliament resumes, and we will not accept anything short of a review underway. Who's doing it? What are the terms of reference? What do we seek to find? And above all, a commitment from the government that this is going to drive the change that Queenslanders deserve.
Would there be any indication as to how many offenders have been released judicially?
A review will help to go to that. What it might also show is that innocent people were caught up in a system that was broken, and I think that would be equally troubling. We want a proper review, and on behalf of Queenslanders, we think they've waited long enough. It's time. Thanks all. Sorry. Sorry.
Rocky, thankfully, right now she's now in a state of condition. What's the general state of play now? How do we stop this?
It is really troubling, and I think of it what that would be like as a parent to receive that call. Now it looks as though this may be a great story of survival, and we will all celebrate that. Every Queenslander will. I think in the days ahead there are questions that have to be answered, and those questions relate to the systems that are in place both at a local level at the centre, but also what steps the government has taken to make sure that this is a priority. Now, today's a day to thank all that is good in a story of survival. Today is a day to be grateful that a little girl has pulled through. But in the weeks ahead, questions should be answered, because this can't keep happening. Righto, thanks. See you guys. Thank you.